The Comstock School District is the same as the Port Jeff Station Teachers Association. Just full disclosure, we know each other. And for me, when I was in medicine for 25 years. I had a career. I was one of the administrators in Southampton and for the five departments of radiology. And my oldest boy went to school, to the middle school, the Rocky Point School District. And he and his friends didn't like science. They thought it was really hard. And I was like, you think science is hard? That's ridiculous. The only reason you learn English and math is to do science. I mean, the only reason you waste your time with any other subject is so you could do science. And I was volunteering a lot in the Rocky Point schools. It was my way of imposing myself, I guess, on the teachers. I wanted to help. I wanted to know everything. I said, do you believe, someone told me I should become a teacher. And I was like, right? You should be a teacher, Beth. You're here all the time. And it was the most wonderful thing that ever happened to me. I was fortunate enough to get my bachelor's in biology and chemistry. I was going to be a doctor, and then I heard this really handsome Italian guy singing in a bar, and I got married and had kids instead. Which happens, I guess, to anybody that's lucky. And so I said, I'm in medicine, how am I going to do that? I could just go back and get a master's. And I had the good fortune of going to Stony Brook for my master's. And Dr. Brennan Brooks was my professor, and she taught me about the constructivist classroom. And the way you teach science is you create this discovery center that children come to every day, and they investigate and figure out what the subject matter means to them. And so you very much have to differentiate your instruction and make sure that, in fact, your children are working in cooperative groups. None of these words matter anymore. They don't matter anymore. They're not relevant. They can't happen. We just line them up, and we teach them all the same stuff, exactly what they need to know. Now, most of the people in this room, I would say almost all of the people in this room, graduated from a New York high school, right? So we took Regents exams. No biggie. I wanted to go to Columbia University. I wanted to be a doctor. I had to go to an Ivy League school. I was lucky. I went to a good high school, East Meadow High School. Started out in Brooklyn. I know you find that hard to believe by my accent. Started out in Brooklyn. Was fortunate enough to graduate from East Meadow High School. I did well on my Regents exams. In my high school too, though, my sister really didn't want to do that. She wanted to go into business, so she took a business track. She still makes more money than I do. There were some of my friends that graduated with degrees in cosmetology and auto shop. We had all of that in East Meadow High School. But I was on a Regents track, and I was going straight ahead, having no way of knowing that that Italian guy was going to wind up in my 20s. And I understood when I graduated from East Meadow High School that I could do one very important thing. I could learn. I could learn anything. I passed my tests. I was in high school. I was old enough to take these grueling Regents exams. I knew I had to do well because this is what I wanted to do, and I had an understanding for that. We're not talking about that today. We're talking about at 8 years old. At 8 years old, in the 4th grade, I'm going to take an ELA, a science, and a science, an ELA, and a math exam that are going to be harder, really, grade-wise, harder than the Regents exams I took in high school. I teach 8th grade science. The 8th grade science exam is made up of physics, chemistry, biology, and earth science. Thank you. 60 isn't easy. 4 sciences. included. I took biology for a year. I got my Barron's book. I studied the tests. I didn't know exactly what the questions would be, but I had a pretty good understanding. No, no. My 8th grade students have to do all 4 of these years in one test. I couldn't even remember the 4th one. Right or wrong? I mean, really. So I decided, you know, through the 20 years that I've been a teacher, there's been lots and lots of different ways that we're supposed to teach, and lots of different, but okay, so you accept it. And as my superintendent, Dr. Ella, says, it's another tool in your toolbox. After 20 years, you have a good toolbox of all different things you can pick and choose from. Nobody's interested in my toolbox anymore, right? You're going to learn. I like to learn. I'm 60 years old. I do Facebook, Twitter. I use a smart board. I'm a big shot, right? The problem is, 2 years ago, I sat with Dr. Ella and I said, I don't get this. I just don't get this thing. I think this is a bad thing. I have a bad feeling about this. Something bad is happening here. I can't keep doing this because I'm wasting all of my class time on this test. I can't keep teaching to this test and cover any of the stuff that I want to cover in life science. Where are my periwinkle labs? Where are my earthworm labs? This is life science. I've got guinea pigs and snakes and every kind of animal coming in my room. People are doing experiments that they devise. I have no time for this. I'm just teaching to the test. So we decided with some of the people in Comsmod, we had a little rally 2 years ago in August. We didn't think anybody was going to show up. 2,000 people showed up. So I guess there were other people that were trying to say, I don't have a good feeling about this thing. I just don't have, and then I really doubled my efforts. I started to work with people like Marla and Jeanette, and groups like NICEAPE and BATS, and I spoke to parents, and I was told by my union, by people that I respect tremendously, be careful, you can lose your job. Be careful. If you tell people what you really know, you're going to lose your job. Now, I need 2 years to retire. I can't retire before I'm 62 without penalty from my pension system. My husband, as I said, is a musician. He has no pension. He has no health insurance. He's a musician. He's an artist. Be careful. That's what the reporter said to me a couple of weeks ago. Do you understand that the state can lift your license? Do you understand that you can be fired? And I went to Dr. Ella and I said, Joe, I in good conscience can no longer give this test. I can't do it. I can't. I can't teach to the test. I can't waste 1 more minute on it. I cannot administer it. And of course, I will continue to fight to have it go away for every child. Because now I'm a grandma. And so my baby Luke is going to go to public school. And my daughter-in-law, and hopefully my son, will be teachers. And I have to fight for them. I have to fight for my 300 members. I have to fight for all of my students. And I have to fight for myself, quite honestly, because when I graduated from East Meadow High School, I knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that I could learn. I could go to Columbia University, I could go to Stony Brook in my 40s, I could learn, I could figure this out. I do not want to wake up one day on a gurney in an emergency room, looking into the eyes of someone going, what's the answer, Mrs. Dimino? Not now, not now. test refusal movement. Everyone on this panel, this is very, very slanted in one direction. You are not getting both sides of any story here. Nobody here is trying to tell you that you're going to get a well-rounded vision of this argument. Forget it. We're all on the same page. The reason that you would refuse, and I'm not allowed to tell you this, the reason that you would refuse to allow your children to take these tests is because there are only two reasons to give a test. You give a test to inform your own pedagogy, to make sure that I am actually teaching the subject matter in a manner in which children can absorb it, and creating a test that children can take and be successful on. So that informs my pedagogy. And the other reason I give the test, only two reasons, is so that I know how every child is absorbing or understanding the material that I'm hearing, so that I can now change what I do to meet their needs. This test doesn't do that. It doesn't do either of those things. It doesn't do anything. It does not affect your children negatively or positively. In April, they take the test. We don't get the results to the next school year. The district has already assigned them a new teacher. If they're going to be left back, it's already been decided. If they're going to be promoted, it's already been decided. If Johnny's going to have AIS, it's already been decided. If Susie's going and gifted and talented, oh, I forgot, we don't have those programs anymore in any of the schools. Gifted and talented, right? Oh yeah, I remember the gifted and talented. Anybody remember that? You're never going to see it again. Not if this agenda continues. So, it doesn't in any way help your child, negatively or positively. Whatever's going to happen to your kid is going to happen regardless of what they get. And it has no effect on your teacher. If every child in the class sends in an I refuse letter tomorrow, all the test prep will stop. The teachers you need statistical data to affix to the teacher to affect the APPR. If there is no data, it doesn't affect the teacher in any way. It just doesn't get added in. It doesn't exist. That's why you can't just keep your daughter or your son home. They have to come to school so you can fill in 999 as a refuser in the state of New York. You can't opt out in the state of New York, you can only refuse. So it's 999, gets bubbled onto the test, and then the child has refused. The teacher is in no way impacted by what happens if you do that. The governor imposed a 60% on us. In Kamsawag, we lost by 20, our budget went down by 26 votes the first time. 26 votes to get to 60%. He only won by 53%. I sent him a little note. I said, that 53 looks good, doesn't it? Today, Governor, on November 6th. All I want is 53% of the children in the state of New York to refuse to take the test. That's all I want. I'd love 100. But all I want is 53%. So I can write him a letter and say, how's that 53% look? As the president, I get to go to every class. I get to go to all the buildings all day long after I finish teaching my classes. I am a classroom teacher. And so in my room, students don't waste any time on this. But there are rooms where children are doing, over the past break, hours of test prep for the exam. Now, what I say to parents all the time is, nobody remembers middle school. Nobody loves their middle school teachers. because you're so uncomfortable in your body in middle school that everybody wants to wipe that from their memory. I love my 3rd grade teacher, I love my 11th grade. Nobody knows about me. Did I go to 8th grade? Was there a teacher? Was I alive? Nobody knows. The truth of the matter is, children have to have those awkward years. They have to be weird in their bodies. There have to be people who want to be with them at that time. There have to be times when they're really nurtured. You know, some kids come into kindergarten, they still have to be toileted. You know, they've never been away from mommy. They're crying for 6 months. You need a kitchen in kindergarten. You need a dress-up house. My children went to kindergarten. I came in every week dressed in a different costume with different colored Rice Krispie treats. Valentine's Day they were red, Halloween they were black with worms on them. Different book, read to those. That's what you have to have. You need grandparents in the classroom, parents in the classroom. You have to refuse the test. But most of the people in this room, I think, maybe you're very close to making that decision, or you've already made a decision. If you haven't sent in your letters, this packet that's on the table, it's the last sheet. Or you can go to nicesafe.org, and you can certainly get that letter at nicesafe.org. NiceSafe.org is an amazing organization. It's made up of teachers and parents and administrators and children, everybody working together. And that's how this happened. NiceSafe is going to put up billboards so that the governor can look at them as he goes to work. And we said, here on Long Island, we don't have billboards. So we said, how about if we do mobile billboards? So you're going to see this truck on the South Shore and North Shore of Suffolk County and in Nassau County. And we had lots and lots of teachers and parents and local unions and firemen and policemen and the butcher and the baker, everybody sending in whatever money they could, and we're going to have these vans going around telling this to people. What I would really hope and wish for each of you when you leave this room is that each of you tell at least 5 people that they have to send in the I refuse letter tomorrow. That after you convince them to do that, that you ask them to get 5 more people to do that as well. And that you absolutely contact your state legislators. You have to call them, email them. It doesn't matter how you get in touch with them. Make them understand that your children are not going to take the test. We cannot stop this ball that's in motion. We don't have the power as citizens. We don't. We cannot stop them. The governor will shut down the government and then ram this right down our throats. That's what he'll do. We can't stop it. The only way to stop this agenda is to not take the test. That's the only way. The only way is to not take the test, because then they'll understand that's the only thing, that's our only tool. It's all we've got. Before I was lucky enough to get a job at Comstock, I taught in Wyandotte. And before I was lucky enough to get a job at Southampton Hospital, I taught in the St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital Center on 116th Street in Amsterdam in New York City, one of the 5 trauma centers in New York City. I think that my entire life, my work has always been civil rights work, women's rights work. I'm part of NICED's Civil and Human Rights Committee. And that's probably why I am a caregiver, either in the hospital or now as a teacher. If we don't come together and understand that poverty is the issue in this country, poverty is the issue, not whether or not teachers are teaching. Here on Long Island, we're very lucky. If Long Island was a state, we would be #1 in the nation, our schools. Do we have very poor schools on Long Island? Schools that don't do as well as others? Yeah, we do. But the largest majority of the schools on Long Island are doing well. Why? Because we always had good evaluation systems. We always had superintendents, and the other superintendents that are in the room. We always had superintendents that gracefully found people an exit that needed to exit. But most of the time, what they did was they made teachers become better teachers. And that's what everyone strives to do, either as an administrator or as a teacher. So, please, please send in your I refuse letters. Please, please get 5 people, each of you, to send in I refuse letters. Please, please get those people to get 5 more people. And call your legislators. And the final thing that I will say to you is, never read Newsday. Don't buy